Welcome to this week's podcast. Today, I have my amazing better half. Eric is with me today. Say hello.
Hello.
Today, the reason why he's here today is we're talking to dads. Moms already have most of this information. So this is like a conversation for dads. So if you're listening to this and you're a dad, either your wife sent it to you or your ex-wife sent it to you, and they want you to listen with regards to like having better connection with your kiddos. And when you have that connection, like how to tackle it all. So I thought we'd start by just talking about like something that's just sort of about us. Like you took kids out starting probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago? Yeah, that sounds about right. So our kids now that are at home are 18 and 13. So that would have made them 3 and 8. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
We were working our business together. So one day a week, he would take them, and I would work all day. And I know that's not the reality for many people, but this is just kind of giving you our background, because then hopefully you can see how you can work your things around when dad takes kids out. So at what point did you realize you probably better have a plan?
Well, because the funny thing is when you're an adult, you're like, they don't need to know what
Right, what we're doing.
It's just what's happening.
They don't need to know, but you need to know.
But it creates anxiety if they don't know what's coming.
Absolutely. And I think that anxiety shows itself in different ways, right? Some kids, they get really stressed. Some kids, they get kooky and crazy.
Yeah.
And if they're already bouncy kids, you don't want that. You don't want that, dad.
No, I remember before then when we were first married, and because the older three,
the older three are from my first marriage.
And so when I came on the scene, they were older, so I wasn't there at the beginning. But I was learning like about them, as things have already. It wasn't like
been
from a baby,
right?
To it was
right.
But our oldest would watch the clock at the front of the car all the time.
Oh, he would. I were times when I had to put a Post-it note over it because it would.
Yeah, like I would cover it up, and it would stress him out. And so, I didn't do that much.
It wasn't malicious. It was
like
more
an experiment. And
right. As he got older, I did it on the advice of an occupational therapist who was like, he needs to learn that you're in charge and that he doesn't have to stress about the clock.
Yes.
So, but that's a whole other podcast about occupational therapy and that.
Yes. That's a whole other thing. But, it's like we're going to go here and here and here, and then we're going to go home. Okay. But if they never know when they're going home and they're already tired,
right,
things like that, but also like that you plan that if you are going to do something that might be a little bit more overstimulating, that it happens kind of at the beginning so that they have a chance to
like it wears off. Totally.
This is what's funny was because we were part of a homeschool co-op in San Diego, and there were times, usually you took them, because you were one of the leaders in the co-op, but there were times where you were behind the 8 ball on a project and you sent me. And I don't know what it is, but like the children's museum thing.
Oh my goodness. Children's museum is don't take your kids there.
That's like people swinging from the chandeliers.
It totally is. Like, I don't think that people who actually have children created the children's museum. So dad, you're listening, it will not do your wife a favor if you took them to the children's museum.
I'm not saying never go do it, but I would.
Oh, I am.
I'm
totally like,
but I would.
Unless you've been there first.
Yeah, unless you know what you're expecting. And not all of them are created equal.
No, they're definitely not. I would say that. Many of them are. Many of them
But there's some. And there's a children's museum in San Diego, and it had these very avant-garde art installations that scared the kids.
Right.
I don't know that they were intended to. I just think they were overly abstract and obtuse for being for children.
Right. And I think that that's one thing that often museums don't take into account. They don't take into account this like age appropriate content at the right time and how a child will react to it.
And it wasn't that it even represented something you would think was scary. There just was some energy about it that they did
It was
not like.
kooky.
Yeah. And so, and every child's different. And so there are things that set one off that don't set off somebody else. And so it's
Absolutely.
like, and so it's knowing that and not going, well, they shouldn't be set off by that. It's just the reality
It just is reality.
if for some reason your child has a phobia of Clifford the Big Red Dog,
Right?
and there's a billboard with Clifford, and that's just random. I don't see Clifford.
Right.
That's some reason that's what popped in my head. And there's a billboard and it stresses them out, then just
You have to be able to move past it. I was thinking about that. What I see, and I know this is about children's museums specifically, but what I see with children's museums is, and this is why I really try to steer clear of them, is that they are so overstimulating. There is station after station after station of something that is in your face or hands-on, and that is not, it's not a proper way for children to learn. They have to be able to digest. So if you are going to go to something like that, be very specific about what it is that you're going to, because I think
yes.
otherwise it's way too much. I think it's like, I was thinking about, like you used to take them to museums, but when we lived in San Diego, there were museums everywhere. And I think that
Yeah.
any big city is going to have several museums. So you could, Dad, you could put that on your list. You could put the zoo on your list. You could put definitely a park day. I mean, there are so many things, so many times that you went when we didn't have two nickels to rub together and you just went to the park and
Yeah.
they just went to, but I think it's also about like how it is that you're going about things. So don't wear them out. I think especially those kids under 10, I think really when you started, like I said, they were like 3 and 8. You have to be
Yeah.
careful because you don't want to be in the car at 5 o'clock and have that 3-year-old take a nap, because then you're going to be up till 10 o'clock at night and your wife's going to be really pissed at you.
Like, oh,
So really like be careful about those sorts of things.
all the times we were running an errand at 6 and it's like,
yeah.
oh, hey,
Why are we doing
your
that?
job is
Your job is to keep the baby awake.
Yeah, your job is to keep your little sister awake.
Yeah, we always said that, like, so we had a minivan with, we had 5 children, so there was somebody in every seat, and people would always be like, I want to sit next to the baby. Well, you have a job. If you're sitting next to the baby, your job is to keep the baby awake. Play with the baby, talk to the baby. The baby cannot go to sleep because otherwise we'll be up till 10 o'clock. So keep those things in mind. I think that being like really mindful, and we actually call this front loading. So when you are front loading an outing, you're thinking about, well, do I have enough water? If you don't, you better stop at the Quickie Mart and get yourself some extra water, because the I'm thirsty monster is a real being.
Yes.
The I'm thirsty monster. I cannot believe it that I even talk about the I'm thirsty monster. I talked to him on the other day and I has one child. She's like, I've never heard of the I'm thirsty monster. But you find somebody who has like 2 or 3 children, like, oh my gosh, the I'm thirsty monster is real. We had the I'm thirsty monster like often.
And it would hit out of the blue and it would be like, I'm so thirsty, I'm going to
die. Tell the story about Ellie, because I wasn't there.
Well, so because Harry and Jacob were older,
They were probably 10 or 12.
Early teens,
Yeah.
but they were old enough that there was something that Harry wanted in the Walmart that he had money for. I don't remember what it was. And I sent him in there and I was in the car with Ellie. And the I'm thirsty monster hit. She wanted me to leave them in the store and drive home to get water and come back without telling them we were leaving. She just wanted water so bad that she was willing to abandon everybody.
It's because it like takes you over.
Not that we couldn't have gone in the store, I guess.
No, of course,
but it was just like, you need to, because
it's this space though, this idea that like, I'm so thirsty. So you really want to be careful to avoid that when you get ready to leave with children, or if you have left with children, you realize you did not get water, stop and get water. You need water.
I think that store was only like 5 or 6 minutes.
It wasn't very far, but like but still take water, get water if you didn't take water, and then snacks. I think this is a really important thing too. So often I hear from moms and they say, listen, my husband's trying to do something really helpful to me. He went and took the kids out, but while he had them out, they ate M&Ms and Skittles and all this garbage. that he wanted to share with them, and they came home and they were bouncing off the walls, and we have, all of these issues. So really thinking about snacks, I think, is also really important, which is feels kind of crazy to say, but thinking about it, being a little like forethought before you leave. And that could even be like you got in the car, you're taking kids, and you're like, oh crap, I haven't thought of something. Stop right then and think of something. Can you run back in the house and get beef sticks? Can you get a bag of Cheerios? Can you get something that will help in the snack department that will not have them being all bouncy and crazy?
I mean, and also, because one thing I would run into as well is there was something we were doing that appealed to one age group of child, but not the other. So you have to kind of balance it out a bit.
Right, right. Are you talking about the Del Taco and In-N-Out situation?
Oh, yeah, so we went, and I don't recommend going to this place, but.
No, but this is
but it
a
was like-
perfect thing that dads often are doing. So I think it's fine to talk about.
Yeah, but Sam loves Del Taco.
Loves Del Taco.
And this weekly going out on an outing,
He's 18 years old and he loves Del Taco.
he has a T-shirt with the logo on it.
It does. We have wrapping paper that has Del Taco on it. And we have Christmas ornaments with Del Taco on it. That's how much he loves Del Taco.
And so this weekly, we stay out all day, so you have the house to yourself to work. It often ended up like we would go to the library and we get a bunch of books, and we would go and sit in the Del Taco with our books and eat our tacos. And one day Soraya is like, why do we have to go here every week? And Sam was like, stop talking.
She was done with Del
She's
Taco.
like, I don't want that every
She was
week.
probably 8 years old, maybe 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, that was like our weekly tradition as
Right,
we'd end up there.
Right. No,
And she was fed up, but
she was done.
But then
Thankfully, the In-N-Out was right next door to the Del Taco.
but the Balboa Park, basically Balboa Park in San Diego. I mean, it's not to the scale of the Smithsonian in DC, of course.
No, but it
is
is
like
big
a
like that.
complex.
Mhm.
There's a complex of museums. There's an Air and Space Museum and Museum of Man and
Natural
art and
History
natural
Museum,
history and
there's like 2 or 3 art
Model
museums.
Railroad
There's
and,
a lot of fun
and
things. Puppet
But there's a
show.
puppet show, and it's like the oldest puppet theater that still runs in North America or something like that. It's been there for 100 years. And it was like $5 a person to go. And I would take them every week, and Sam hated it.
Did he hate it in the beginning, or did he not hate it until he was like 9?
I think maybe he thought he was too cool for it. I don't know, but he
Probably
was
after
just
he was
fed up with
9.
it. And I was like, it's a half an hour. And afterwards, we'll go to Del Taco. He's like, all right. Because that
He's
was
taking one for the team.
Yeah, but then Soraya got fed up with it too, which was really funny why she
Right.
got fed up with it. Because
One time you all went and she realized that the puppeteers were.
no, what it was because there was like different groups of people that did a show every week. And this one show, there were puppets, but there were also actors on the stage with the puppets. And Soraya didn't think there should be any people. It should just be people doing the puppets behind, and you didn't see people. She didn't come there to see actors. She came.
Really funny.
So after that, she was done. So then he was happy because we never had to go back there again.
Right.
He didn't.
That was probably around, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really funny. I think that's important though, that you're like looking at then, and that of course made what you guys did every week shift a little bit.
Yeah.
But also, it allows you to look at each child individually and go, okay, so this week we're gonna do something that you really want to do. Next week we'll do something your brother really wants to do. And rotating that around really then helps. It helps them know that you care about what it is that they want to do.
Yeah.
And it allows them, especially if you're doing it regularly, it allows them the opportunity to really connect with you, connect with the places that you're going, and enjoy that time when they're out with you.
Yeah. And there were a lot of times we would take those opportunities to explore the city, and we would go on.
I was thinking about the time you guys found all the asteroids.
Oh, so all these San Diego memories
Yes,
today.
my San
So
Diego
in San
memories.
Diego,
We miss San Diego. dearly.
In San Diego, there's parts that you'll see these tile mosaic of Space
Or
Invaders.
Space Invaders, that's what it was.
And it's like on some buildings, under freeway overpasses, and we were like, well, what is that? So we did some research, and there's a French artist called Invader, and he has put these up in cities all over the world. And there's a website that shows where they all are. And we found a website that like where they all are in San Diego, and that some of them don't exist anymore because the place remodeled. And so like half of them are gone now, but we're like, okay, today we're going to go around
Went
and find all
them
the
all.
Space
It's like a
Invaders.
scavenger hunt.
Yeah, all the Space Invaders in San Diego, and we found all the ones that still existed. There are some that aren't there anymore.
See, I think that's a fun thing to do with Dad. That's
Hey,
like,
look, there's one right
that's
over
something
there.
I would never have thought of. Like, I would never have been like, oh, let's do that. I'd be more like, hey, let's find all the yarn stores in San Diego. But you found all the Space Invaders, and that was something they will always remember that. They will always remember
Yeah,
like
so I mean,
going with you to do that.
so they don't necessarily, yes, there's big things that you can do that they remember, but some of the things that they come and tell me, remember that time? It's stuff that didn't necessarily cost money except gas, I suppose, and that it was just interesting stuff that we did in places.
Well, and some of the things you didn't even leave like we lived in a little area near the beach. And some of the things you guys didn't even leave the beach. You just, or leave that area. You would go on a walk and see the
Yeah.
crabs, go on a walk and, so you're not even necessarily leaving, you're just exploring.
Yes.
And I think that makes a big difference for a child. Because again, you're taking an interest in what they're doing. You're not just entertaining them.
I mean, there's like being overtired and like a healthy expenditure of energy, so there's not too much.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but often that involves things that like kind of work their brain and their
Right.
body.
I was thinking you used to take them on this walk. So our youngest has ADHD. She's very busy. She's much more chill now, but she was super, super busy during these years when, I mean, he would come home and he'd be like so worn out from the day, which, gave him a thought for how I felt on the days that I had them all. But like, this space of you taking her and wearing her out and getting her to that place of pliable exhaustion where she's still pliable enough to work with, but too exhausted to fight you. And so you used to go on this walk by the rocks.
Yeah.
And she had to like really pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, and there was like, oh no, those crabs are coming
Yeah,
to get
the
me.
little
It's
crabs
like
in the
those crabs don't care about you. Don't worry about it.
It'd be like little crabs. And she'd have to walk and make sure that she didn't fall. And I think those things are good. Those are really good opportunities to be with Dad. So I guess what I'm saying too is like really think about when you take them out, what are you doing? And are you just going to the movies and not thinking? And which is fine. I mean, we had plenty of opportunities where you guys just went to the movies, but there were also most of the time you put some thought into it.
Yeah.
And I was going to say too, if you were going to eat crazy food, do it at the beginning and then take them to the park so they can run off.
Yes.
Whatever food dye and crazy crap you put into them before you take them home to reunite with Mom. Because that's where so many disagreements happen. You bring them home and they are exhausted and falling apart. And Mama's like, well, I had this day, but now I got to pick up all the pieces.
Yes.
And we want to really avoid that space because that causes disagreements between the two of you. And so be open to Dad, be open to what Mom is saying, and Mom, be kind. Be kind, because he's not going to listen if you're yelling at him.
I mean, another thing to be mindful of is the dynamics between kids, depending on their personalities.
Absolutely.
Because I've had times where I came home and kids had gotten in some kind of fight with each other, and it's like this is what they're fighting about.
Right.
I tried to diffuse it. Yeah, that's the word. Didn't work. So and so won't forgive the other one for saying, this kind of thing. And so it's kind of being able to head some of that stuff off before it gets to that place.
Oh, absolutely.
If you know there's a personality conflict, then be mindful not to fuel it anymore.
I just think about, and this isn't really about dance, it's just about parenting in general. I think about the fact that for a while, we would send them all into the laundry room to fold laundry together.
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, it would end up in a fight. And somebody would either have a bloody nose, have gotten pushed, like somebody would be crying. And so we just like rearranged and just said, okay, only 2 of you go to do fold the laundry, or one of you goes to
Oh,
fold the laundry.
I didn't, someone had a bloody nose once?
Somebody had a bloody nose once. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no. I'm just remembering that's a long time ago.
That's a real long time
A
ago.
long time ago. They were little. They were
Yeah.
like probably 12, 10, 8,
Yeah, way back in the day.
much younger. So I think that it's important when you've got those personality conflicts to like look at your kids. And truly, if you're not understanding temperament, I would watch some of our videos or listen to some of our podcasts on temperament, because once you understand the temperament of your children, it really helps for you to be able to know how they're working. And also like it helps you know, like, wait, my temperament is this, their temperament is that. That's why when I do this, this is how they react. And if I want to get the most bang for my parenting buck, I need to like open to other options. I need to be open because, I think we grew up, Eric and I are kids of the 80s and Gen Xers, and we grew up with like kids should be seen and not heard, and shut up before I give you something to cry about. And, of course you're drinking out of the hose and staying outside. Like that's what we grew up with. And so we don't want to be those parents. And as much as we love our parents, like this is a different space. So we want to really be able to meet our children where they are. And part of that is understanding who they are, like really getting to know who they are, like really spending that intimate time where you're having conversations and you're truly listening. You can't listen if you're doing this and they're talking to you. So, when you're in charge, Dad, don't make the default be come over here and let's look at this video. Instead, ask them, what's your favorite board game right now?
Yeah.
Even if it's Shoots and Ladders and you're sick and tired of playing Shoots and Ladders or Candyland, you could do what my father-in-law does. He just hides the cards. He says, I'll play Candyland with you, but I'm hiding. He goes through the card deck and pulls all the ones out that take him back to the beginning because he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want the
Any-
game to last 64
anything that
hours.
prolongs the.
Yes. Like play board games. Like we play Uno, and you play Uno from first grade on. Once they're counting, many kids even younger than first grade, once they're counting, like Uno is a really fun game. We've actually had a standing family Uno game for probably 5 years. That I keep track of all the scores. And so it's fun, and it allows, allows us to play together and allows you to understand and really get to know your kids for who they are and their temperament and their personality, and truly to let them know who you are. Like for real.
Oh, totally.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that I missed. I think I got all the things. I think mostly if we're looking at you taking kids out, remember to front load. And by front loading, it's just like you would take the diaper bag with you. Just like you would take the diaper bag with you if you still had a child in diapers. Please, like, consider water front loading, snacks front loading. At the very least, you know where you're going and you know what you're doing, even if that changes while you're out. And then mom, because I know mom that sent this to you is probably still listening. You have to let dad be dad, and you have to let him mess up a few times before he realizes like how to do things better. I would say if you've got a situation where dad continually brings them back and they're falling apart, don't be the savior. Make him sort that out. You leave. If he comes home and they're falling apart, let him figure out how to recover that, and you leave so that you aren't frustrated and upset. And then dad, if you did that, if you took them out and they're all crazy now and you fed them garbage, well, it's a learning experience, right? It's a learning experience. Get them on a walk, get them some good food in them so that they're not like crazy, and get them ready for bed. That would be the best thing you could do.
Yes.
Stay away from red dye. anything like that's an allergen.
Yes,
Oh my goodness. All right, I think that's
absolutely.
all.
I
Do you have anything else to add?
think that about covers it for today.
I love it when you join me, as I feel like you have, Eric was a stepdad before he was dad. And so he's always been in this space of like wanting to learn about and understand our children. And that makes your relationship with them very special. I was thinking one thing that we didn't talk about was he used to take them to, I mean, talk about garbage. He used to take them to Rite Aid that was near our house, and they would get ice cream that was full of garbage, full of garbage. But what my children will remember is them sitting and you teaching them about Mac tonight, which is so crazy.
Yeah, they saw a picture somewhere of that old
Oh,
McDonald's character that had a head shaped like a moon.
right. That's from like our childhood. It's from the
And I was
80s.
telling them about what it was because they wanted to know. I don't remember how or when.
But they were probably only
Yeah,
5 and 9.
because it wasn't like, because it's an old
It's
commercial. So
really
I
old.
don't remember how they saw the image. But I explained it to them and like, remember that time we used to sit outside in the alley of the Rite Aid and you told us about Mac tonight
Under the no loitering
under the
sign.
no loitering sign? That's
Yeah.
just funny. I mean, that's very random, but
But
they,
it's amazing what they take away from that time that they spend with you. And, truly, if you're listening and you're thinking about what you're going to do with your kids, think about times that you spent with your parents, that you just had this like one-on-one time that was different and separate from the rest of your family time. And then really think about how you can bring those experiences to your kids. So thank you for joining us today.
thank you.
All right. Bye now.
Have you heard of the Candle Access at Ariel's Light? This membership is perfect if you are looking for full-length podcasts and you want to catch the replays from the monthly gatherings. Your Candle Access also includes the Beacon Files, which are 40-plus hours of inner work content, as well as Biz Schooling for all the families homeschooling and running a business. There's the meditation series with the Introduction to Meditation, meditation for the parents, and meditation for the children, as well as our archive of 2023 with full-length podcasts and gathering replays. Join for only $5 a month at arielslight.org.